The Legion Go 2 and the Xbox Ally X are two of the biggest follow-ups to some of the best PC handhelds released last year, and at the end of 2023, the Ally X and the Legion Go 1. Both of these handhelds have received criticism not only from users like myself and reviewers, but also anything and everything in between, including the media. Each company has listened and made some changes to improve everything on both of their handhelds, from the ergonomics, the software, even down to the hardware as well. But is it all enough? Are the changes that both of these companies have made enough to warrant the price increase? And how do these two even stack up against each other? I'm going to break down both of these handhelds, not in terms of just raw performance numbers, but also from real-world use case scenarios and experiences. I've had the Xbox Ally X for roughly about 2 months and the Legion Go 2 for roughly about 2 weeks. I want to share everything that I've found while playing games on both of these handhelds so that you can come to a decision on your own. But I think that by the end of this video, you'll know more or less which way you want to go. Full disclosure here, ASUS did invite me to an event earlier this year with a bunch of other content creators and some of the press and media to see the Xbox Ally X and the Ally, and to talk to some of the team at ASUS, AMD, and Microsoft, and really dive deep about anything and everything that this handheld could do. Also, Lenovo did invite me to a closed-door event for content creators in the press at CES 2025, where people from AMD, Lenovo, and Microsoft were there to talk about what the future held for Lenovo and what it looked like in the PC handheld space, specifically the Legion Go S and the Go 2. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some of the most important things when deciding on which handheld to get, and that's price. Now, when we're looking at the Xbox Ally X, we're only looking at one version, and that one comes with 1 terabyte of storage at $999. And the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which also comes with 1 terabyte storage, goes for $1349. You should be aware that there is also another version of the Legion Go 2 that comes with an AMD Z2 non-extreme version. It has less RAM. It's not as good as the Legion Go 2 that we're reviewing here, but it costs $1,099, so it's very different. But I'm going to be comparing the Ally X with the Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme and the Legion Go 2 with the Ryzen Z2 Extreme. And yes, they are different, but the rest of the specs tell a very different story. But are those specs really worth the price difference? The biggest difference aside from price is that they have two similar but different processors. The Xbox Ally X comes with a processor that includes an NPU. Now, the purpose behind the NPU is still a little bit of a mystery because there were a ton of things that were promised in the presentation given at ASUS's event, but nothing has come to fruition yet. Promises of Auto SR from Microsoft that takes the upscaling off the GPU and onto the NPU, highlight reels, and other features have yet to be released. Long story short, the Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme chip hasn't hit its full potential yet. I went through all of this in my original review of the Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X. Feel free to go ahead and check that out somewhere up here. Now, the Legion Go 2, well, there isn't that same NPU that's built in. But I don't think that that will impact performance that much when comparing the two. Consider that some form of foreshadowing. Anyways, here are the specs. I feel like that when you're comparing the two, 24 gigabytes of RAM is kind of the sweet spot when it comes to gaming on these PC handhelds today. But if you do want to future-proof your setup, then yeah, 32 gigabytes is definitely the way to go. It's just most games don't necessarily need the additional RAM as of now. And with the way that RAM pricing is going, I think most developers and users will need to keep that in mind when developing games and, who exactly is going to be playing their games. But if you're in it for a long trip, either a train ride or a flight, you're going to want to make sure that you have the largest battery possible. And the Xbox Ally X has the slight edge here. But both of these are pretty similar in terms of build and design. The Xbox Ally X is pretty straightforward. You're going to get the unit itself, an AC adapter, some documentation, and a piece of cardboard to hold it up. Now, the Legion Go 2 comes with the unit itself, an AC adapter, some documentation, and a piece of cardboard to hold it up, but also a soft fabric case. Now, I have some thoughts about this, but long story short, I like the fact that this thing comes with a case. Although I have had some instances where I kind of just pick up the case with the Legion Go 2 inside and accidentally turn it on, the button it's pretty sensitive, so it's easy to accidentally turn it on when you're on the go or when you have it in your bag. I wish this wasn't the case, no pun intended, but when it comes down to it, but it is what it is. But looking at the Xbox Ally X, to get the official case, you're going to have to be spending around $70 for it. So I've got to ask you guys, would you rather have a case included in the box, making the whole thing more expensive, or would you rather have the option to buy the case and pay less for the PC handheld? Even if it's something as simple as the case from Lenovo, which is eerily somewhat similar to the original ROG Ally's case that was sold a few years back. Okay, let's look at what we have here and what we can do with our handhelds. The Xbox Ally X borrows a lot from the original Ally X, but changes a few things here and there. On top, you'll find one USB 4 port and one USB 3.2 port. Both of these support DisplayPort 2.1 and Power Delivery 3.0, but only the USB 4 port is Thunderbolt 4 compatible. This is where you'll be plugging in your eGPU if you have one. Now, you'll also see two LED lights for power and charging, a volume rocker, a heat exhaust, well technically three, and a UHS 2 microSD card reader, a 3.5mm jack, and a power button that doubles as a fingerprint sensor. The rest of the buttons and sticks are right where you'd expect them to be, including the macro buttons that are on the back, but there's the addition of the Xbox button, which gives it that whole Xbox name and whatnot, as well as some more functionality. Now, the Legion Go 2 in a lot of ways is very, very different than the Legion Go 1. Part of this is because of the True Strike controllers and how they've been upgraded and redesigned, but it also comes down to the design of the internals as well. On top, you'll find the power button, which also doubles as a fingerprint sensor, a USB 4 port with support for DisplayPort 2.0 and Power Delivery 3.0, and you also have a volume rocker. You also have slightly improved speakers, but that's a whole different discussion. Spoiler alert, they're still not great, especially compared to the rest of the competition, but they are better than the Legion Go 1. On the bottom, you'll see a 3.5mm jack, a microSD card reader, and another USB 4 port. I'm actually a big fan of having ports on top and on the bottom of things so that you can charge in whatever way is most convenient and comfortable for you. The bottom port only just supports DisplayPort 1.4, but it still supports Power Delivery 3.0 for fast charging. Either way, it's easy to see that both of these handhelds have taken their ergonomics and pushed them to 11, or well, at least tried to. Anyone and everyone who has picked up an Xbox Ally or Ally X know that despite the way that it looks, because it's definitely not pretty to look at, it's comfortable as heck. This feels like you're holding an Xbox controller, and it feels perfectly balanced, especially when you're playing games. Now, the face buttons, they also feel like an Xbox controller too, and ASUS pretty much took what worked with the Ally X and improved upon it, then put the grips from the series controller on it, and yeah, that's pretty much where we are at. Now, the power button is placed in a spot that feels natural to push down. It's still, something that you have to reach a little bit for, but it still feels comfortable where it's at, especially in contrast to the Legion Go 2. The triggers feel great when playing games, though I do wish that there was a way to make them hair triggers for online shooters, but the haptic feedback, it feels awesome. The Xbox button feels like a natural integration with things, as it kind of just sits right next to the armory crate and the menu button that's there. But one thing that I didn't mention in my initial review of the Xbox Ally X that has popped up more and more is that the D-pad is much more clicky and louder than the original Ally X. It's pretty subtle because the actual D-pad, it feels almost the same, but the switches underneath feel much more tactile than before. Like it's much clickier, if that makes sense. Heat dissipation is great because you never really feel it in the handles, though you will feel it, in the exhaust vents that are there if you put your hand in the middle of the body, but the handles, they always stay cool. With the weight of things, I'd say that things feel really good and only slightly heavier than the original Ally X, coming in at 719 grams, but that's still lighter than the Legion Go 2. Speaking of which, although the Legion Go 2 is a tad different in form factor, there are a lot of improvements in what Lenovo have done here. Now, Lenovo have been releasing all sorts of Go S models throughout the year, and they have been arguably some of the best ergonomics this gen. With the Legion Go 2, they've decided to stick with the True Strike controller setup, which is more of like their take on Joy-Cons, if you were to say. And with those True Strike controllers, they fixed a ton of things that I personally didn't like in the original that shipped with the Legion Legion Go 1. The original TrueSight controllers had hard edges that made them feel very uncomfortable after a long play session, and the D-pad was a joke in comparison to the other PC handhelds at the time. There was barely any travel distance to take it seriously for playing any sort of games that had a D-pad input to take into consideration. The location of the start and select buttons were off. I mean, well, you get it. It wasn't the best when it came down to ergonomics, but everything has changed since then. There is still that built-in kickstand that allows for a tabletop mode, and aside from using it a few times, I never really, just stuck to it. I do know that there are some people that love having that flexibility, and if you pair this with an eGPU, you can really push what this handheld can do. Since we're talking about tabletop mode and whatnot, we should probably talk about the FPS mode switch that we have here. Now, there is essentially a mouse sensor right next to it, and with this, you can detach the TrueSight controllers, but not like a Joy-Con. You're going to want to go down instead of up, but now you have a vertical mouse to use. Now, with these controllers, you have different options depending on what it is that you want to do. If you want to keep on going and using this like a regular controller, then yeah, you can totally do that. You can turn off FPS mode and keep it off and just use the unit as is. The only odd thing is that the right TrueSight controller has macro buttons at a really weird angle, but that's about it. The M1 and the right bumper have been separated, unlike the original Legion Go, which I actually really like. But if you want to, you can also use these Legion Go 2 TrueSight controllers on Legion Go 1. They work just fine, though there is a bit of a gap that's there. The Legion Go 2 has much more ergonomic design than its predecessor, but it's also much heavier. I work out, so I'm kind of used to, weights and things like that, but I know that some of you out there might not want to or are used to holding something this heavy for a long period of time. The only thing that I really need to reach when I'm using that handheld is the fingerprint sensor. The materials used to make the TrueSight controllers feel awesome. They feel much more premium and comfortable than those in the Legion Go 1. There's almost like this soft touch to it, but it's still sturdy to hold. The start and menu buttons are at the top and underneath the Legion space and Legion menu button. And although the touchpad is a little bit smaller, it still feels like it's big enough to, pretty much find it usable when I need to without any issues at all, especially when it comes to navigating things through the Legion space software when you kind of just don't have a choice but to use that. Now, if you ever do need to navigate on the Xbox Ally X, you don't have the touchpad or anything like that available to you, but you can use the analog sticks. Either way, you're going to have to touch the screen, and yeah, we should probably talk about the Xbox Ally X screen. Now, the Xbox Ally X screen is the same screen that we've seen in every iteration of the Ally line, for better or worse. It's a 7-inch 1080p IPS panel that we've seen, 120 Hz, VRR, and 500 nit peak brightness. The cool thing is that we know exactly what this screen looks like and what it can do. The boring thing is that we know exactly what we can do because this is the same screen. There's absolutely nothing new here. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on, why that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Now, the screen on the Legion Go 2 is like the Mac Daddy of screens that are out there. And in my humble opinion, it is the crown jewel of this handheld. It's an 8.8-inch 1200p 16x10 144 Hz VRR 500 nit peak brightness OLED panel. It's VESA True Black certified. Guys, I love panels like this. It looks absolutely immaculate. And I remember holding this PC handheld while I was over at the CES event and just being in awe at what this panel could do. In essence, this feels like one of the best panels on the market right now on PC handhelds. The only thing that I don't like is that there's a glare that you kind of see here. So if you're sensitive to glares on screen, then I would definitely recommend getting an anti-glare screen protector of some kind. In fact, I would probably say that's the same for both units, but it's much more noticeable on the Legion Go 2 than it is on the Xbox Ally X. I've asked you guys in the past what screen size you prefer, and most of you guys would prefer an 8-inch screen. So when I saw the Xbox Ally X had the same, 7-inch panel, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed with what we had here. And here's the big thing, hear me out. I wonder if this was just because ASUS saw what was happening economically speaking and wanted to keep prices at a reasonable level. If we look at the Legion Go 2 as an example, they went all out. For better or for worse, they have a huge OLED screen and has all the bells and whistles that we want. 144 hertz refresh rate, VRR, and everything. I wonder if ASUS, if they had gone for the same thing, either the 7 or 8 inch, and it was an OLED panel with all the bells and whistles, if we would be paying for an Xbox Ally X at that same price point of $1,350 or somewhere around that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I'm genuinely interested if this is the right way that we should be going, or if we should be staying at, you know, that $899, $999 price point in terms of things. Anyways, the way that both ASUS and Lenovo have handled their software is very different, but they're both maturing at their own pace. The Xbox Ally X was the first PC handheld on the market to come with the Xbox full screen experience. But even to this day, I still feel like it's kind of in beta. Microsoft and Xbox have made great strides in improving the experience. Don't get me wrong. It's just, it's not 100% smooth. And I honestly don't think it ever will be. This is, you know, Windows after all, guys. But I digress. With what we have, we should talk about what ASUS has done, because in many ways, it is a combination of both Armory Crate and the Xbox full screen experience. And most of the time, this kind of just works, but there are some instances where you're left kind of scratching your head. Now, I'm not going to do a full tour of Armory Crate since not much has changed in the layout since my original review of the Xbox Ally and Ally X, but I will say that if you want to learn more about this, check out the video that I mentioned before. I'll have a link as well as up here, as well as down in the description below. What I will say is that you have two main ways of getting your settings dialed in. One is the command center, which is neatly integrated into the game bar, which, by the way, I completely and totally love. But there's also the Armory Crate app itself, and there are a slew of settings here as well. Many of them are accessible in both Armory Crate and Command Center, but some are also available through the game bar itself, which is from Microsoft and not ASUS. Anyone who's been following the channel for a bit knows that I'm a guy that prefers options. Give me options and I'm a happy camper. But multiple options here seem, I don't know, just off. It's almost like two people did a full software design for their homework and were told to turn it in without ever knowing what the other person was doing. At this point, I would go to the command center and do most of my tweaks there, but I guess it's up to you in terms of how you want to run your handheld. It's just something that you should be aware of. The one thing that I can say is that Armory Crate and the command center both run really smoothly most of the time. When I went into the Xbox full screen experience on my Ally X, before getting my review unit of the Xbox Ally X, I had to message all three of my techie friends to let them know about it, because it was just absolutely awesome. I was just so impressed with how it ran, and just Lenovo and their Legion Go 2 hasn't touched that level of smoothness and snappiness yet. Now, I do know that the Xbox full screen experience has been announced to be released on other PC handhelds, but it wasn't installed when I first got the Legion Go 2. While getting things ready, I decided to just update, install everything, you know, and get everything ready on the Legion Go 2 to really see how well things could run on an optimized Windows experience. Now, I have had issues and bugs with this because I forced it on with the Vive tool, which I'll link a video down in the description so you can go ahead and check it out for yourself if you want to do this. Just be forewarned that not everything will work as intended, and if you want to have a smoother experience, I would just wait for the official release from Microsoft themselves. But with both of these running Xbox full screen experience, we can really talk about how games actually run on them. Okay, story time. So when I started running synthetic benchmarks, I had the Xbox Ally X plugged in and set to turbo. And I also had the Legion Go 2 set to performance. Now, both of these modes are their top of the line, their respective top of the lines for each of the PC handhelds here. But then I noticed that there was a huge gap in performance. So I decided to just go ahead and see what the maximum that I could set the Legion Go 2 and the Xbox Ally X in their custom settings. And then I just decided to just dial it in and really just get them neck and neck to see who actually really performs better. Both of these will have a sustained output of 35 watts, 2-minute sustained limit of 36 watts, and then a sustained 10-second output of 45 watts. It is worth mentioning that this is the maximum that the Legion Go can do, but not what the Xbox Ally X can do. The Xbox Ally X can do 35 watts, 45 watts, and 55 watts respectively for each of those settings, but I had to match what the Xbox Ally X was going to do with the maximum of what the Legion Go 2 could do. And the results are pretty interesting. I also had to change the VRAM in the Legion Go 2 that was set to 2 gigabytes by default from Lenovo. I had to go into the BIOS and change that to 8 gigabytes, but for the regular user, they might not even think of doing that. So if anyone from Lenovo is watching this, please, for the love of God, just ship these with 8 gigabytes of VRAM set by default, or at least, I don't know, just leave it on auto. Anything is better than limiting the VRAM to just 2 gigabytes. Who does that? Now, obviously, once I finally had the settings changed and I finally got things going, the synthetic benchmarks told a very different story. Although the amount of power that was going to Legion Go 2 was the same as what was going into Xbox Ally X, it was still a little bit behind in terms of Firestrike and Time Spy in 3D Mark. Now, for Firestrike, the Xbox Ally X was getting 90-95, and the Legion Go 2 got a score of 90-60. In Time Spy, the Xbox Ally X got a score of 39-54, and in the Legion Go 2, I got a score of 39-14. It also bears mentioning that these scores were very different before I put in these custom settings. Diving into the gaming benchmarks, I also kept these two handhelds at the same TDP, but I wanted to let you know that I'm running both of these at their native resolutions, 1080p for the Xbox Ally X and 1200p for the Legion Go 2. I wanted to see how performance would be in their proper aspect ratios and their panel resolutions. Cyberpunk was pretty surprising when I saw the numbers after I made all the adjustments to things. These are both going to be running the Steam Deck preset, and you'll see. On the Xbox Ally X, I got 54 frames per second, and on the Legion Go 2, I got roughly 49 frames per second. Now, I wanted to see how Baldur's Gate 3 in Act 3 ran on both of these handhelds. I would run them personally on medium settings and then run something like lossless scaling in the background, but I wanted to see how it ran without that. Both of these ran at FSR 2.2, ultra quality, and then the low preset during all of my testing. On the Xbox Ally X, I got roughly around 35 frames per second, and on the Legion Go 2, I got roughly around 37 frames per second. Now, Returnal is a game that I love to run on PC handhelds, though I normally run it at a lower internal resolution and then upscale, either 720p or 800p. This time around, we're sticking to 1080p and 1200p respectively. On the Xbox Ally X, I got roughly around 48 frames per second, and on the Legion Go 2, I got 47 frames per second. These are all on the low preset. Now, for Black Myth Wukong, this is known for being resource hungry, and the first time that I ran my benchmark was the first time that I realized that the VRAM was set to 2 gigabytes by default. So shame on me for not catching it beforehand, but once I did get all the settings dialed in, the Xbox Ally X ran the game at an average of 50 frames per second, and the Legion Go 2 ran the game at roughly 56 frames per second. The next benchmark is something that you have to take with a bit of a grain of salt, and that's Monster Hunter Wilds. I know that it's not the most optimized game out there, but I wanted to run the numbers. I was interested in seeing how it could run. Again, these are at 1080 and 1200p lowest settings, but without frame generation. I wanted to see how this game ran with just raw frames, and I'm happy to say that I was actually pleasantly surprised at how well it ran on the Legion Go 2. On the Xbox Ally X, I got roughly 38.5 frames per second, but on the Legion Go 2, I got 43 frames per second on average. Now, this is on the lowest settings, so it's not pretty, but with the VRR panel that's here, you can get smooth gameplay here and add some frame generation on top of that, and things are going to look absolutely smooth as heck. Drop down the internal resolution to 720p or 800p, and things will be hovering around 50 to 60 FPS. Needless to say, I'm honestly all around impressed. A lot of the recorded in-game footage in this video is all thanks to AverMedia and their Extra Go capture dock. This is their ultimate USB-C capture dock made for PC handhelds like the Steam Deck, the ROG Allies, the Legion Go's of the world, and even the Nintendo Switch 2. It features 4K 60 pass-through, captures up to 4K 30 or 1080p 120 video, extra USB ports for all of your accessories, and it even has a PC-free recording solution using a built-in microSD card slot. It's currently on sale for only $99 during Black Friday. But just a heads up for all of you guys, AverMedia is running a ton of other awesome Black Friday deals on some of their other top capture cards as well. The sale runs from November 20th all the way to December 1st. On sale, you'll find things like the Live Gamer Ultra 2.1, which is their best HDMI 2.1 external card. It delivers 4K 144, HDR, and VRR pass-through, 4K 60 video capture, ultra-wide support, 5.1 surround sound support, and even party chat. And the best part, it's $45 off. If you prefer an internal option, the Live Gamer 4K 2.1 PCIe is just as powerful and with the same specs, minus the party chat. And finally, you can grab another one of AverMedia's best capture cards in terms of specs for only $99, the Live Gamer Ultra S. This brings you 4K 60 pass-through and capture, HDR and VRR, ultra-wide support, 5.1 surround sound support, and even VRR recording through their software. I have links to all of these down below in the pinned comment and the description. Check them out and take advantage of their Black Friday deal. And thanks to AverMedia for sponsoring this video. Based on everything, I think it's safe to say that games that require more memory simply run better on the Legion Go 2. The extra 8 gigabytes of memory definitely helps, but I will say that this is something that's more of a game-by-game basis, so to speak. So you kind of have to ask yourself what games you're going to be playing anyways. Now, when it comes to battery life, it really depends on the settings or the TDP that you have set for yourself. For the Xbox Ally X 7-watt TDP, I was getting roughly around 10 hours and 20 minutes. At a 13-watt TDP, I was getting roughly around 6 hours and 10 minutes. 17-watt TDP, 2 hours and 50 minutes. At a 25-watt TDP, 2 hours and 20 minutes. On the Legion Go 2, 20-watt TDP or the performance mode, I got 2 hours and 25 minutes. At a 15-watt TDP or balanced mode, I got 3 hours and 15 minutes. At the 8-watt TDP or quiet mode, I got 7 hours and 55 minutes. So you got to ask yourself, who the heck are these for anyways? I think that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it really just depends on two things. One, budget, and two, priorities. If you want a handheld that isn't going to break the bank, but still provides the latest and greatest when it comes to performance, then yeah, go with the Xbox Ally X. But if you want to have a handheld with all the bells and whistles for a few $100 more, then I'd say go with the Legion Go 2. The biggest difference between the two is that, well, the Xbox Ally X is just more comfortable to play games on, and you have a much smoother experience. The Legion Space app is there, but it's still a little clunky by comparison, and I do think that both of these will get better with age. Getting the Xbox full screen experience going on the Legion Go 2 officially will help with the performance as well as an overall feel. And something that's worth mentioning is that the NPU in the Xbox Ally X is still underutilized. My hope is that the NPU will, finally get all those features that take advantage of it and really improve the experience that you're going to get on the Xbox Ally X as a whole. The biggest thing that you can do if you get one of these two would be to install Bazzite OS or SteamOS, depending on which one you prefer. I would go with Bazzite OS just because it's much more open and the devs are absolutely awesome. They're always on top of providing great support on their software and just getting plenty of things going for their user base. If you want to see how to install Bazzite OS, then check out this video over here, but I'll be posting a video talking about how performance is on both of these handhelds. So subscribe, that way you can keep an eye out for that. And thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.